we're making a list of topics first for breakout. I understand that first on your list is Heroku deployment.
Yes.
What other things would you like to talk about while we were all gathered here?
Integrating APIs.
Okay, so like
there's no documentation.
like an API wrapper with no docs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna put a frowny face next to that.
Can we just choose a different API?
Well, I mean, yeah, we'll go over some of it specifically with your example. But the moral of the story I can tell you right off the bat is going to be, like sad panda and file under TFB to something to figure out bad.
To figure out that.
Yeah. Okay, what else? Anything? Yeah?
I don't know if this is on point, but I was having issues with dotenv for my API. I don't know if it's something that's specific to my API or whether it's a general topic.
It is a very general topic. I can touch on it just a bit. Token-based auth. Yeah? We good? Okay, great. Let's dive in. Let's go to dbc/2/challenges/salamanders/ Ajaxifying Hacker News. Why not? I can make it bigger. So we've got this challenge that we're working on, and we want to deploy it out to the internet. The way that we teach you here at Bootcamp is to deploy via Heroku. It's essentially like the easiest way to go for deployment, which may or may not be a true statement. It's a very easy way to go for deployment. That's definitely a true statement. There are others. Probably in the very near future, you'll start working with AWS, which is requires a bit more configuration, right? But like is much more extensible and powerful, So more configuration generally leads to, more sort of power in your hands. I think probably the very first thing we should talk about when it comes to deployment is when to deploy. Does anyone have an answer to that?
Before you're ready.
Before you're ready. What else? When would we deploy to Heroku like moving forward? We're starting a new project next week. It needs to be deployed. When do we deploy it?
Right away.
Right away. Oh my God.
Right
It's like,
away.
do you have an index page? Does it say hello world on it? Sweet. Time to deploy. You always want to deploy early and often, specifically like with heavy emphasis on the early part. The more that you build into your application, right? Like each little bit that you add in has the possibility of messing up your deployment, right? Like maybe it causes some error in production that you don't have in development. So like with the auth token, or like say if you had a background worker. Does anyone here know what background workers are?
Helpers do?
Nope. So it'd be like if you were running a separate Redis server, which is a key value store for like, say like sending emails in the background, so that you're not waiting on your server to do that, right? So you like might have a separate server that's running as a dependency on your server, right? That would be like another issue that would crop up when you tried to run into production that you wouldn't like have right away in development. So when you have like several of those, say if you were like working on your project for a couple days, right? You had like all these different like bells and whistles and things are happening. It's all great. And then you try to deploy for the first time and like 37 bells are no longer ringing, right? Like instead they're clunking. It's filed under not great. Whereas like if you deployed from the get-go and then you practiced more of like a continuous deployment strategy where it's like, okay, we completed this feature, we're going to deploy it. Then you would like catch those things piecemeal. You'd be able to deal with them one-on-one as opposed to like a giant catastrophe that just like comes rolling down on you 10 minutes before your demo is supposed to start. You know what I mean? Okay, great. I'm glad we're all on board.
Too soon.
So all these computers have the Heroku toolbelt installed. If you don't have a Heroku toolbelt, you can install it via brew. So like if I brew list here, yeah, Heroku and Heroku toolbelt are both installed. If you don't have these installed on your personal machine, you'll need to do so. You can find tons of documentation on Heroku on how to get this set up. A quick caveat note: Heroku is going to like say things to you about mandatory version numbers of your Ruby. I don't care, right? Like Ruby 2.3.1 is the latest stable Ruby. You should be building your apps in Ruby 2.3.1. The tutorial for Heroku was probably written when 2.1.2 was, the norm, right? There's not like a requirement because it says in the tutorial that you have to like run your program in like whatever the version was in the tutorial. It's a thing that boots get hung up on a lot, right? So now you know. Once you've got the toolbelt installed, you'll want to run a Heroku login command just to get logged in. And this persists, right? Like it doesn't time out. So once you've logged in on a machine, you're logged in on Heroku on that machine until such time as you log out. This is important news for you because like if you happen to be deploying from one of the workstations here, right? Like you should just know that your login information, right? If someone was trying to deploy via Heroku there, they'll be logged in under your account. It's not really an issue for us because like we re-image the machines every 3 weeks, so those credentials go away. And like by and large, we pretty much trust the people in our cohorts, right? Yeah. But for future implementations, it's probably a situation where you would want to like get your Heroku deployment set up on your personal machine, and then like that machine is the place that you push from. You know what I mean? Great. So assuming that you've gotten Heroku installed and that you have logged into Heroku, creating a new Heroku app is pretty straightforward. We're just going to say Heroku create. Yes?
For the installing Heroku, is it not just a gem install, or is there like other stuff?
I don't think it's a gem. I have installed via brew.
Brew.
You just do brew install Heroku and then download the toolbelt.
As well?
Awesome.
Nice. I haven't done it in a while, so.
What's that?
Okay. Heroku first, toolbelt second if you don't have the toolbelt. I mean, yeah. Once you're there, then you just do Heroku create. Okay? It's going to create a new app. It's named it for me here, Radiant Meadow 77195.
Shelters.
And it added a get remote for me from Radiant Meadow 77195.get. So if I like up above, I did get remote -b. I just had the origin. This is the default remote name in Git. If I get remote -b again, now I have Heroku there as well. So it's just a fetch and a pull off to this Radiant Meadow 77195 is the name of it. Okay, I don't right off the bat before I do anything else. I don't want to like share with friends and family or put it on my resume and be like, hey, employer person, why don't you head over to Radiant Meadow 77195.herokuapp.com where you will find awesomeness. Probably not going to say that. Probably going to want to say to them like, I want to send them to like my awesome hire me page, right? So I'm going to go and I'm going to go to Heroku. And we'll log in. And you got a list of apps here, right? These are all the apps that are up and running currently. It's worth noting here that on a free, like absolutely free Heroku account, you're limited to 5 applications. And those applications like all have to stay below like certain database limits and certain usage limits and all that jazz. But it's free. I've never paid a cent to Heroku, not one, but I have much more than 5 applications with much more than like the baseline level of usage. You just have to like put a credit card on file with them. in order to like start exceeding the absolute bare minimum caps. So if you don't mind hooking up your credit card information to Heroku, then you can have as many apps as you want, right? And you'll never get charged anything unless like people are using it enough to like bump you up out of the free tier, right? So like whatever it is, like 50 users or 100 users, whatever like the threshold is. I imagine like if you have something in production that has 100 users, like that's probably a good problem to have. Great, awesome. So here's my list of apps. There's a Radiant Meadow 77195. I'm going to click on that. And within here, we've got like a status page. It sort of tells us like the history of the application. Resources, come on. This tells us like if we've added on any additional Heroku features. All kinds of things that you can add on here. It's fuzzy search, so you just like, quick, go at it, or like mail. Look, I could add like Mailgun or Mail Trap or Mail to Webhook, some whatever, right? So add-ons. Actually, I don't care about any of this. I'm going to right over to settings. So here's the name of our app. So if we wanted to change it, this is the spot. What was it? It was awesome. Hire me, please. I don't think this is going to work. It's not, because they all need to be dashes. It's all lowercase, and the only delimiter is that's allowed is dashes on Heroku. So awesome, hire me, please.
Does it have to be like unique?
It does have to be unique. Yeah.
Like,
So now I am the owner of awesomehiremeplease.herokuapp.com.
Nobody else can have it.
Nobody else can ever have that because now it's mine. But like here at our command line, it still lists Radiant Meadow 77195. And this no longer points to anywhere. Coming back to Heroku, you can just come down here to the get URL, copy that thing, and over here we'll get remote rm Heroku, and get remote add Heroku, pasting this in, and now double check, and now our Heroku points to awesomehiremeplease.get. So we just renamed our app.
where'd you get the URL to do the remote add?
I copied it from, I'm sorry, I can embiggen this. Here on the settings page, there's a get URL. But like at the end of the day, it's always the same pattern, right? HTTPS, get, Heroku.com, name of the app.get. Yeah.
So when you have users, they go to that's their URL.
Negative. This is where you push new apps up. To go to the actual application, it's awesome hire me please .herokuapp.com. And it says welcome to my new app because I haven't pushed anything up yet. But it's there. It exists. It's probably like a step in the right direction. So coming back to our code, let's take a look at it. Let's open this thing up. We've got an index page. Yeah, it shows things. We'll just say that like I was coming to this project fresh. It's all brand new. It's shiny and terrific. So I need to make sure I'm all get committed in. So I'm going to get add dot. I'm going to get let's do get commit dash v for verbose, and then we'll look through here just so that I can not like. So it looks like, what did I do? I modified put. I added this article. Oh, I created a partial. And I modified, I added a bunch of JavaScript and a bunch of white lines. So we'll write a commit message will be like add, oh no, not you, up top. Add partial for post, initial JS, Ajax, workflow, work in progress. Cool. Save the file. Now our commit's in. We're green. Good to go. And now I'm just going to get push Heroku. And then I need to tell it the name of my branch. So in this case, htdroh. And then this is important. I have to colon master here. So on Heroku, you can push up as many branches from your like source as you want. But the only branch which is compiled into an application and actually deployed to like user-facing production is the branch that is at master. So if I was working on the master branch of this challenge, I could just say git push Heroku master. But because I'm working on some other branch, like it doesn't matter, right? Because I mean, you're essentially always going to be working on some other branch. You know, whether you happen to be calling it development or production or staging or testing or, you know, get my shit out on the internet and make some money super quick, you know, whatever it is, right? So you just like prepend that branch name here, separated by a colon, and now that branch is going to be the one that's pushed to master up on Heroku. Yay? We're all on board? No questions?
Does that mean that you can just push a branch and then in Heroku merge that branch into master?
I do not know the answer to that question because I have never tried it. I would say that, I mean, I always just push the thing that I want on Heroku to that branch. There's really no reason for me to like push any code that, like, there's no reason for me to push any code to Heroku that I don't plan on it being in production. You know what I mean? Yeah.
How did you change the remote?
Yeah, I said get RM, so I said get remote, remove the name of that remote, which was Heroku.
Yeah.
And then very next line, get remote add Heroku with the new URL.
Gotcha.
Probably, there's probably a get remote like change command if you wanted to look into it.
How do you verify that after you did that to make sure it happened?
So to view your remotes, it's get remote-v for view, right? Which gives you a list of any and all remotes that you have on your repository.
Really?
Yes, really. The timing was perfect.
And could you say again? Because I've heard that you can f this up royally. Like the branch that you push, should it be? Say that one more time about how to not f this up when you push a branch up.
Okay, so here let me demonstrate it to you in a more like real world workflow, right? Let's say that I don't even know who DR is. Whose initials are DR? David. Yeah, that's who it is. So David and I were working on this the other day, and let's say we completed our feature, and we're gonna together we'll sit and have a conversation as we merge the things via the command line, and we're gonna do it via the command line for time as opposed to GitHub, which is how you ordinarily do it. So let's say I'm gonna go up to git checkout master. And off of master, like probably at some point earlier in my career as a developer at this like institution, I probably made like a production branch, which like is the thing that I have out in the wild being consumed by users. Now, if I like if I ran a git diff here against ht this, right? Like I'd see all the changes that I have off my feature branch. To where production branch is right now, right? So we'll say that, like in a perfect world, I'd push this feature branch up to GitHub. I'd open a pull request. Other members of my team, they'd review the code. They'd say, "Wow, that looks great. We're going to merge that into production." And then I would get pull origin production here to have now my local production match the merged production up on GitHub. Everybody with me?
Yes.
Great. We're just going to merge locally. Ordinarily, the only time you merge locally is when you're working on like a solo project. There's really no reason to go up to GitHub and like open a PR, right? Like if you're working on your own thing, you're the one that's reviewing the code. So, yeah. So you know, here I am on the production branch, and I want to merge in that feature branch, right? So I'm going to say git merge. Oh no, git merge, and then there it is. Great, the merge went okay. No merge conflicts. That seems awesome. And we're all committed in. Production now is like up to date. It contains our last commit. We're all ready to go. Our features is ready to be pushed out to deployment.
What does git do?
Git-s is a local alias that I have for git status, which displays it in a slightly more clean format. Sorry. Okay. I try really hard not to use aliases with students. You should call me on it. Okay, so I want to push this up, right? So I'll git push Heroku, and now production and then colon master. Production being the branch that I have locally that I want to push to the master branch on Heroku. So to like the actually deployed Heroku instance. So I hit the button, and Heroku fires off. Right? It's going to do a bunch of things. It's going to bundle, install on the app. It's going to install the gems, like given whatever Ruby environment I've handed to it. It's going to like look at different files that I have here and maybe like take some additional action, right? Like I might like tell it that it needs to like do something with my assets, right? Or I might tell it that it needs to like set some instance. You know what I mean? Well, oh, speaking of, hold on. Yeah, there was other stuff. So look, check it out. Totally got an error here. That's not great. So it continued running after the error. I just like stopped what I was doing and like went on to the own thing. So like reading this error, it comes from, where's it come from? It says line 22 in the environment RB. So let's go have a look. Require faker. There it is. Require faker is apparently a problem. Why would this be a problem? Anybody? Yeah? I did. So let's go take a look.
Gem file?
Let's go take a look at the gem file, yeah. So we come over to the gem file, and we Command F for faker. There it is. It's in our gem file.
But it's in test and development. Does that
I-
matter?
Hold on. I heard... I am in the correct project folder. I spent like 15 minutes this morning floundering around because I couldn't get Sinatra Flash messages to work. Turns out I was modifying a gem file in a separate like application. Like I don't get it. It's definitely there. I've confirmed like 14 times. It's totally there. It's not there. No, I messed it up. You hit the nail on the head.
Test and development because you're not in test and development anymore. Now you're in deployment.
Perfect. Right, so we have three environments that like our application typically lives in: production, development, and test. Right, your database will have three separate environments: production, development, test. Your code like operates in one of these environments, and like as it turns out, your gems are installed into like each of these environments as well. So we have the capacity here in our gem file to say like very specifically, listen, factory girl and faker. We only need them in test and development. We'll never ever need them in production because we're not running our spec suite in production, right? So no need for that additional like weight to the application. Unfortunately, our rake file requires faker, right? And because there's a requirement for it, right? Like then it's trying to bundle it in, it's trying to include it, but now it's not there. The options for us to like resolve this situation is we could move faker up and out. We could. That seems like bad news bears, right? Like we put it there for a reason. We said we didn't need it in production. So like instead, let's go and find, so like when we go to environment, so our environment has a require faker. Faker's only ever used in the seed file. So we'll make that requirement there instead of environment. That way it's not system wide.
Nice.
Yeah? You could even like go a step further here and say like require faker if like env, oh what is it? Does anyone know the code right off the top of their head? Sinatra if production main.development apparently is a thing. Which then, so it'd be like main, so require figure if main.development or main.test. I wonder if that'll work. I've never actually tried it before.
Try it.
Yeah, we totally could. Let's look through our application quickly and see if we see it anywhere else. So there it is in our gem file. There it is in our gem lock file. There it is in our. Whoa, no, that's in the controller. Post create faker internet username.
Fat controller right there.
Whoa.
Oh. Okay, so it turns out I was wrong. We are using it somewhere else. I'm gonna, right, like, this is now TomTom. And aligned properly. Okay, there we go. So let's try to push again. All right, get s, get add dot, get commit dash m, 3m's. And what do? We like rm faker from production code. Yeah? Cool?
Yeah.
We'll just up arrow back to our get push Heroku production master now, and we'll try this push again. No error this time, because it no longer is requiring some file that it didn't have in the bundle. So we got past that. Now there's some warnings here at the bottom. Generally speaking, this is just like a standard rule of thumb for you moving forward. The typical bash response to things went okay is what?
Seems alright.
Nothing.
Status
I heard it.
quo.
Right, like if I do something in bash and it worked out okay for me, like if I echo path, right, like it just gives me back the thing. It doesn't like say, hey, this is all right. Right, like really bash just like gets very verbal when things go wrong, or when there's sort of important information that needs to be conveyed. Something other than like a status 200. So I told you that so I could tell you this. When, like generally speaking, when you encounter code from other developers in your command line, when there's like some plain text down at the bottom or in places, like someone somewhere that knew a lot more about the piece of software that you're writing or trying to use, like made a decision that there was some crucial information that they needed to convey to you. Now this obviously isn't always the case, right? Like sometimes you're going to get lolcat, but by and large, when a developer like takes the time to write some information there, like you should probably take the time to read it, at least the first pass through. You know, and you get used to sort of things as time progresses, and you know what can fall by the wayside and what can't. So, like Heroku here is giving us a warning. It's saying, hey, listen, you didn't specify a Ruby version in your gem file. You should really do that. And that's true. We probably should. So I'm just going to look and see, whoops, what version of Ruby I'm running, 2.3.1, and I'm going to go to my gem file, and I'll set Ruby 2.3.1. Great. I'll bundle. I'll get S. I'll get cam, update, Ruby version, shit, sorry. There we go. Ah. I'm so bad at this. All right, there, we're good. We're all good, I promise. Git push, Heroku, production, master, again. As you can see, right, like this is probably a thing that you'll be doing quite a bit of, especially if your team like develops sort of a more continuous deployment strategy, to the point that like I personally like aliased Git push Heroku to just GPH. Right, it's just way smaller. So it's rebundling everything now because it's operating under a different Ruby version than what it was previously when we pushed up. Because we hadn't declared a Ruby version, it was just going with whatever its default Ruby version is on their servers, which I think is 2.2.4. The warning around, whoa, God, oh no, oh, I'm supposed to do stuff. Okay. The warning around the Ruby version is gone. The next warning is no proc file detected. This one we're going to skip, but I will take a moment to sort of talk with you about what is a proc file, because it's important information. Heroku will essentially cover the absence of a proc file for you with like some of its own like default behavior. A proc file is a file within your application that tells your application how to get started, right? So it's like, okay, the application's starting. We're going to run this. We're going to like execute this command to start the server. We're going to execute this command over here to like start the mail server, and we're going to execute this command over here to like start the, I don't know, spinning fortune wheel of puppy prizes or whatever like things that you need your server to do when it first starts up. Heroku's pretty smart in that like if it doesn't see a proc file, but it does see a Ruby application, it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to like try to start this Ruby application in this way that I know how, and that will most likely work out. You don't need a proc file because of that like default functionality until you start like having more advanced deployments. So per like the earlier example of like if you were going to run a Redis server to like handle some delayed job processing, you would at that point then you would need a proc file to tell Heroku, hey, this is how you start all the things, right? But if it's just a Ruby app straight up, no worries. Does that make sense? Great. After I deploy, I do Heroku restart and then Heroku open, which will open the app up.
What is Heroku restart?
It spins down the dynos and spins up the dynos. So it's essentially like stopping and starting the server. Internal server error.
That's what mine says.
That's terrible. How? This is not informative at all. I read the error message. It said internal server error. How do I like get the error messages? Is the thing that I'm sure all of you are asking me right now. No add errors. Back to the console, we can say, so Heroku gives us actually tons of commands we can use. And you're free to go and take a look at the documentation and explore around a little bit there. Highly encouraged, actually. Heroku logs will give you a console printout of the most recent log files around your application. That said, I 99.9% of the time run Heroku logs -t, or for trailing. Heroku logs -t now has given me an active terminal console of my application. Right? So like if I command K this out and I go back over here, I refresh the page and I come back, there's new stuff. Right? And so like the terminal that you've gotten really used to looking at when your server is running, right? Like this is how you get at it. Heroku logs -t. And it says, oh, there's an active record, PG, undefined table, relation post does not exist. Oh, damn it, I forgot to create a database. That's totally something we have to do in development, right? Like, we have to rake db create, we have to rake db migrate, all that jazz. Okay, so we need to do that. I'm gonna leave this terminal window open with the console, and I'll just create another one over here. So, with Heroku, the first time you're deploying a database, it doesn't actually have a create command, but it does have a reset command that contains a create. So slight different pattern from what you have like at your standard development terminal.
So your rake file doesn't work in this environment?
Your rake file does not work in this environment. So I can say Heroku run. No, is it? No, I think it's just Heroku PG reset database _ URL. And actually, I'm going to take this off. If I just said Heroku PG reset, it's going to give me an error. It's going to say, hey, Heroku PG reset, you got to specify a database to reset it. Unless you change the name of your database, the database name will always be all caps database _ URL. Like assuming it's a Postgres database, that's what it will always be.
How do you change your database?
You can change it under config via the command line or via the GUI. So there it is, database URL. So I say Heroku PG reset database URL. Now it comes up and says, hey, warning, you're going to take a destructive action. This is something you should think about before you just like blindly hit the yes key. As a matter of fact, just as like a pro tip moving forward in your lives, anytime anything computer related says to you, yeah, sure, I'm okay taking the action that you asked me to do. You just need to like physically type the name of the thing that you want me to do out again, right? Like that should always trigger a little red warning sign inside your head because like shit is about to go irrevocably in one direction, right? Like, you know, the confirmation messages that you have to like interact with systems like grow in their uniqueness as the drastic action like grows, right? Like uh, for like regular removal of like some protected file, you just gotta like hit Y. For removal of some like file with some additional flags on it, you gotta like hit a capital Y. Right? To reset your database in production, you gotta type the name of the app. Like, oh, yeah. So, okay. So I'll put it in here. Awesome, awesome. Hire me, please. And it says, sweet. I'm resetting the database. Awesome. So what it's doing under the hood here is it's running a rake db drop and a rake db create. No migrate. It's just the creation of the database. So now we can continue with our like standard things. We'll say Heroku run, and now we can like hit some of our rake commands. Same as we've been doing. So Heroku rake db migrate.
Why does your thing have like bubbles on it?
No.
Oh, so the rake file's coming from where then? Different rake commands?
No, this is our rake file, but like we don't have access to the create command.
Gotcha.
So there's some warnings here around like the shittiness of the code, which I apparently inherited. Apparently, I didn't mean. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. Okay, and we probably would have run our seed file, except that like I don't think it's going to do anything. In fact, it's probably going to error pretty hard. Heroku run rake db seed. I'm betting it's going to error pretty hard because remember we changed the require statement to only production or test, which means that then yeah, it's not happy about any of that. So we won't be able to seed currently. All right, cool. But we got a database out there live on the internet. Let's go check it out. If we let's go back to our server console. It was this one. K it out, and let's refresh the page. It is not. There's a new error. Oh God, oh no, fatal, terminating connection due to administrator command. That doesn't sound great. Select post from post, Postgres adapter. I'm gonna kill this, and I'm gonna say Heroku. One of my first like debugging things is always a restart. Sweet, good to go.
That's it?
In this case, yes. And so it looks like there's a hacker news. We don't have any seed data here, but it's deployed, it's out, it's on the web, it's ready to go. So we like type in some stuff, hit the button, it like Ajaxed really freaking quick.
Why is it
It's
so
amazing.
fast in Sinatra? Is Heroku just
I-
by default
I can like it. It is totally changing the number. What's that, Caden?
Is Heroku faster than Sinatra? Because that seems to be going a lot faster than when I do things on Sinatra.
I mean, they're neither is faster than the other, right? Like you're just running the Sinatra gem here locally on the machine versus running the Sinatra gem there locally on their machine. It does appear to be faster though. I don't know what to tell you about that. It should appear to be slower. Like logic would dictate that it was slower, right? Like a server running on your local machine versus a server in friggin' Portland.
What if they have a better server?
That's true. Yeah, the possibility does exist that Heroku is not running massive server farms off of the low end model of Mac Mini. That's probably the case.
I love it.
Now that I think about it, probably.
Make a decision.
So, yay, our things work, right? We're all good. It's deployed. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about keys. Remember in the past we talked about keys, hide your keys, right? We do that in test and development via dotenv or some similar gem that gives us access to environmental variables. Unfortunately, because we are specifically not uploading our keys to GitHub, right? That means that when we push up to Heroku, our keys don't go. That .env file doesn't go. It stays locally on the machine. Heroku doesn't know about our keys. So let's say that I had some key that I really had to have in order to make this site work. You can enter them via the command line. I always do them via the GUI just because I'm lazy. So if we came back over to the GUI Heroku, we're still on the settings page here. And there's a deal here where it says config variables. Okay, so I'd like open that thing up, and inside I can like set, this is essentially like the contents of your .env file, like here they go, right? Where I set key over here, it's like secret, thing correlates to super secret value. You know what I mean? And now I have that. So like if the site was consuming, well, let's prove it. Let's come back to index, ERB, and here we're gonna say like an H1 with a, oh, fuck off. God, I can't wait to murder you right in the face. It's happening tonight. Tonight is the night. Oh, this system's going bye-bye. Sure, I'll type it out. I don't mind. Ian.
It's gonna ruin everything. It's gonna survive.
Do you know the
Yeah,
short,
it is.
the short key
It's
command
deployed
for
itself up to Heroku.
the snow cones without the equal sign?
Yeah, ER. I don't have it installed on this machine, but yeah, ER. So it's PE with the print, ER without it. Okay, so I've just done this here. I haven't. I want to be really specific that I haven't done the .env gem or any of that jazz, nor am I going to. Right? Ordinarily we would, but that's a production or a development and test thing. I just want to demonstrate to you that like it will work in production, like following the exact same pattern that we would have used in development to consume those keys. So come out here and let's. That's not it. That's not it. Let's say get add dot.
It really goes to your index file? That's the right place?
No, not at all. It's definitively not the right place. Oh God! Oh my God! Right now, with a really small application, the build time between deployments is super short. As your applications grow in size and complexity, this command will be like, well, I'm gonna go grab lunch. And then it happens where it did like today. So today I was having lunch with a friend of mine from Pivotal, and we were like 30 seconds after we had like ordered from the restaurant we were at, like his phone starts blowing up. He's like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. My production build that I was deploying, like, it's all broken. There's a lot of red. Oh no. Hey, I gotta go. Like, what the hell, man? It's lunchtime. Derek's pair, actually, Topher. Which meant that I got to see Derek today. It was really nice. He has a brand new keyboard that he's super happy about. It's giant, and there are no letters on it, and every key is a different pastel color. And apparently he is the only person in the building which knows which keys go where.
Oh my gosh. That's
Fucking Derek. Love that guy. So it's impossible to troll his machine.
Nice.
Okay, so we pushed up again. We'll just come right back. Whoops. We'll come right back over and we'll redo this thing. Oh my god, super secret value. There it is.
Cool.
Right? So the moral of the story there is that like these config vars are like something you consume the same way that you would consume a .env variable in development or test. So that's all set, right? Great. That's really it.
You don't want to publish your key
No.
on the website.
No.
No, you do, right? Like, so if I had something here, it was like, if I had something like, Google OAuth token, right? Like, I would absolutely want to paste that thing in there, whatever it was. And it's not published out on the website, right? But the Heroku server now has access to it.
Oh,
The same way that like, so your .env file, like even though it lives in your project, it's not actually part of your project. You put it in the git ignore. And when you do this code, like so say if we were doing the .env thing, right? In development, when you do this code, it's not looking at the .env file. Is everybody clear on that? The .env file, when you first bring it in, you do require.env.env.load. What it's doing at that place in time is it's going to that .env file, and then it's grepping over each line. And for each one of those lines, it's taking the key, making it a environmental variable in your terminal, and assigning the value to it. So this lookup here is coming from like your terminal's environment, not directly from the .env file. Does that make sense? So same is happening in production, right? When we add the keys out here, we're just giving that server access to this value. The person that is consuming the website will never see these things,
Okay.
right? Yeah.
So, like that website that you were just on, that's what the consumer will see, right?
Yeah, I mean, if I printed it out in giant bold letters, they would see it.
Yeah. But you wouldn't put it where you could see it.
Yeah, most likely to like be in the model, something along those lines. Yeah. Other questions about deployment?
When people jack this up royally, what have they done?
Hold on.
Reagan?
Oh, I know what
throwing
I gotta do.
bacon at us.
I gotta run a bundle install because I added those extra things. Now we're in business.
Okay. Sorry about that. Hoverbirds don't work on water. I feel like Riker was with me. Nothing. Hey Riker, can I check in with you for a second? Are you sure?
I guess.
Listen, I don't pat myself on the back often. But I want to say that I am like personally really super duper proud of myself that I've made it now the entirety of this phase without a single like make it so or like you lead the away team or any not once. And I've wanted to like so many times. Okay.
That is very impressive.
When people bork this up, how do they bork it up? Like tons of ways. Not having like the thing with the gem being out of scope, totally legitimate. The thing with like maybe you set some code to run in one place or one environment but not in another, totally legitimate. Specifically like later in life when you get to Rails, right, there'll be like a lot of issues with like are all of the should like be consuming a lot more assets and like there'd be like 15 different JavaScript files and 37 images and there'd be like issues with like were these compiled correctly, like going with the app. When you start talking about performance increases, You'll be minifying lots of things before you push up to production, as opposed to just like sending up like the standard file, which could lead to like some issues if it isn't done correctly. Really, it's I don't know.
Everything.
Lots of things.
All right.
There will be issues, but the main thing that you can do to avoid them is the very first thing that we said, which is to deploy super early, like as soon as you have something to see, and then keep that up as you like build in a new feature, deploy it. Even if you're not going out to like your production, like your actual live to users site, like there's nothing stopping you from having another Heroku deployment that's called like rando place to look at code that I wrote .herokuapp.com. I might register that right now. And like you could just push like test deployment up there, right, and like have it soak in for a little bit of time. You know what I mean? But like just taking it in baby steps is the biggest thing you can do, because like then you're only dealing with one issue at a time, like as it arises. What typically the hands down the place where people get like really screwed is by waiting too long, and then like there's conflicting error messages. It's like the thing over there is fucked, and the thing over there is fucked, and this thing right here is kind of sort of fucked, and we're not. There's like error messages around all of them, and you're like reading the error message for this thing over here, but actually, in reality, like that error message is pointing to this thing over there, and you weren't able to differentiate because there's just like too many problems sort of at once.
If you have a live site that has actual data in your database, reset is not an option anymore. Is it best practice to keep two deployments, one is dev, one is prod, and to deploy it to dev first to make sure it functions?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So you'll have most larger places will have like a production server and a staging server, where staging is sort of like that development soak server, right? Like it's a place for them to push up, see how things are working, like in a production environment, have like probably the QA team will hook up to that server, and like that's the one they're screwing with, as opposed to like apple.com.
And in the Heroku, does that just mean two different deployments with two different URLs?
Yeah, I mean, you'd probably add like another remote, right? So I'd probably like get remote, add Heroku staging, and this one would go to, oh no, oh god, oh no, staging, what is it? Is it this one? It's totally this one. So many things. Yeah, sure, this one. Right? And now we would, I don't care. Thank you. Now we would be able to like push, in the same way that we just pushed this up to Heroku. Now we push to Heroku staging. Like now we have this other place where we can go look at it.
And you keep the databases separate.
They're going to be totally separate because there'll be totally two separate apps,
Yeah.
right? Which means two separate configs, two separate databases, two separate the whole 9 yards. That said, resetting a database for production applications is not something that's an option, right? Like if you did that over at Twitter, Elon would like run you out of town with a pitchfork in a Tesla, right?
Would you even have access to that?
No. Not to mention they have like 16 backups in 17 locations. Yeah. That said, there are, and you can look into this further on your own, there's tons of ways to back up your database data. So like in the event that like you ran into a situation where you had to take the database down, right? Like you could pull all that information out of the DB, do the things that you had to do to the DB, and then essentially reseed it, but with the data that like you already have from users. Okay, any other questions?
You watch Mr. Robot?
I do.
It's so good.
I'm on season 1, like episode 5. I thought it was pretty good so far.
I said no question, but it's about spoiler. Yeah.
Okay, I'm late for a meeting type thing, apparently, so I think that this is going to be the end. Let's say, Yeah, there's totally the icon for my Dev Bootcamp Google Chrome profile is pizza, because for the longest time I used to say that like, you won't hold this against me, will you? Here, I'm gonna hold on. 1 second. I'll tell you the story in 1 second.
Tortilla with mayonnaise and
Just
pepperoni.
just hold on. Just hold on 1 second. We're gonna come over here to Dev, and we're gonna go down here to, oh god, so many things. Tokens, JS.
Being recorded.
Totally, where's that thing? Oh god, I've got so many bookmarks. I need to get better about them. I felt like it was right, but apparently it's not. Oh, maybe it's under Tuts. It totally is. Boom, look at that. Here's a site which I'm going to send. Jeffrey A. Roy. Well, and then Jeff's gonna disseminate it to the rest of you via Slack, right?
Thanks, Jeff.
Oh, hey, I meant to check in with someone. Someone here sent me an invitation to your Slack a while back. I didn't. Was it you?
Probably.
I didn't join. I don't know if you noticed.
Yeah.
Save us in there.
I meant to check in with you. I don't join student Slacks. You should have a private means of communication that don't include me.
I agree.
You know, that way, like you still have the opportunity to be like that fucking asshole, right? Did you see the things? Right. Okay. So here's the site. So you can just share that out. This is a really good introduction to token-based authentication, which I don't think is exactly what you're asking about, but it sure shit will be very soon. So far, we've been doing session-based authentication, right? Where you like set a session, you pass that session around, and like the cookie is stored in the browser. This tutorial like takes you through the authentication protocols that you'll have to start using when you start building decoupled applications, which have like a server running on one end, and then like a JavaScript something total framework running on the other end, right? Like you handle authentication via JavaScript tokens. So this is an excellent sort of intro to that using Rails. I would encourage you to give it a read this weekend. This concludes that. Yeah.